when we think about transition in the bigger picture, like why do
Mm.
people struggle so much with change?
Yeah, I think it's like when something changes, oftentimes it may feel like something's being taken away from you. I think that's the way a lot of people look at it. I think it's almost like a survival mechanism in terms of like, it goes back into our animal instincts to say, okay, I need to survive. You're taking something away from me. This is making me
Mhm.
feel anxious. What's important about it though is to acknowledge that, it may be difficult for you, and but B, to actually feel the emotions around that change. And that's why I love what you were asking around emotions, because I think you have to be in touch with those are real. If you mask them, they will present themselves as other things, health issues, anxiety, whatever it is.
Welcome to Limitless Minds, the podcast where curiosity meets greatness. Each week, co-hosts DJ Eidson and Harry Wilson sit down with some of the most exceptional individuals across sports, business, and beyond. From world-class athletes and peak performance coaches to visionary CEOs, entrepreneurs, and influential authors, they dive deep into the stories and strategies that drive extraordinary success. If you're ready to discover what it takes to be truly limitless and push beyond your own limits, you're in the right place.
Welcome back, those, to the Limitless Minds podcast. Today's a little different. Today we don't have a guest to be named. It's been a
Us,
while
man.
since we just had a one-on-one convo. Really, since we first kind of restarted and relaunched the podcast, and I thought this was a cool opportunity to get together and just catch up on a number of things, some current events, current state of affairs, a couple of topics, honestly, that I think popped up over the weekend. And and so I actually even told DJ, hey, don't tell me how your weekend was, because I want to talk about it on the episode, because you had a big weekend, man. You took your oldest, Shaya, to visit colleges. And we got to talk about this, and I want to share this with people because I think that obviously many of us at some point go through this stage, this transition. Probably means different things for different people.
Right.
If people that don't know, DJ has 27 children. No, from the
And
ages
counting.
of 27. No, please no. No, but
Don't spread that
he's
rumor,
got a lot
man.
of,
Don't be out there spreading that on the street.
he's got a lot of kids. He's got 5. I almost said 6, dude. He's got 5.
Yeah, Jess would
He's got
kill you
5.
if we had
Well,
6. Actually,
um,
that's the purpose of today, man. We got a big announcement.
please don't. But DJ's got 5 children. He started with 3 girls, 2, and he's got 2 boys. Kind of, leading, from, trailing the end there. But you took Shaya, your oldest, who when I met her, she was about 6 years old. Now she's 17 and visiting school. So tell us about the week. Tell us about how it went. Like, first of all, start there. Like, how did it go? Where'd you go see? What'd you learn?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you bringing it up, man. It's crazy because I think about, the kids when we first met and how small they were. And now we're visiting colleges, as you mentioned. We yeah, my daughter Shaya, who's 17 years old now, junior in high school. She's very driven, and had her whole plan in terms of kind of this first college visit, what she wanted to do. They spent a couple times and throughout the years in middle school and early on in high school. They made a couple trips out to DC. So I think through those visits, what I've learned is that she's learned to grow in like the city. She wants to be a lawyer, and so she thinks this would be a great place to start. So about 2 months ago, she said, "Dad, I want to go to Washington D.C. and visit colleges." And of course, I was like, "Dang, already?" Because like for me, I mean, I decided what school I wanted to go to. I think April of my senior year, so like I didn't have quite the plan that she has. But yeah, man, she had it all laid out. So we booked the trip. She had 4 schools that she wants to visit or wanted to visit: American University, George Washington, Howard University, and then also Georgetown. So those 4 schools. And yeah, man. So we got on a plane last Friday morning, pretty bright and early. Left the house around 4:45 and hopped on a plane and got a chance to go visit those schools. But before I kind of get into the actual visit, man, when I was on the plane, Harry, it was like I kept having this vision of me carrying Cher around. She was born in Philadelphia when I was working in pharmaceuticals. I did a rotation there in Philly, And I kept having visions of her being born, and then also me carrying her around in a baby Bjorn. Remember those little backpacks that you don't walk around with?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I like how you said Bjorn. You know what I mean? This
Bjorn,
name,
man, like listen, man, it
yeah.
was a baby Bjorn.
Why you call it
And-
a Bjorn like that? You know what I mean? Why you call it a Bjorn? Yeah, it's
That's it, man.
Bjorn.
So we
Bjorn.
had
You know
to,
what I mean? Just
yeah,
one
Bjorn,
syllable.
man, Bjorn. So we used to, but her and I used to visit coffee shops. Actually, that's where I really learned to love coffee because wasn't getting much sleep, and it was an excuse to kind of go walk around with her in Philly and kind of enjoy the weather, enjoy coffee, and enjoy the bond with her. And so I'm having flashbacks of that on the flight there, and then we land, and then we start the visits, man. We actually before we started the visits, I got to meet with somebody that was pretty awesome, and that was Uncle Ben, who Harry knows very well. Uncle Ben's Harry's uncle.
That's my uncle. That's my
That's
uncle.
right.
That's
That's
uncle.
it,
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
not the rice dude, but Uncle Ben, man, he's an academic of sorts. He's been on board of admissions for a couple schools, including Dartmouth College, his alma mater. But he's like he's like the forever mentor. So it's cool that you guys got a chance to get together
At the
and
delicatessen, as he said,
that's
right?
like
He said.
yeah. He's classy like that, man. You got to full the delicatessen.
He
You
said,
know what I mean?
"Meet
That's how
me
you got
at
to
the
be.
delicatessen." I said, "All right,
Yeah.
man. We'll
What
meet you at the
was the place
delicatessen."
called? Was it actually called the Deli? Because that's what he kept calling it. Is it called the Deli?
You know what?
I don't
I
even know.
forget what it was like. I think it was called like Grubs Deli or something
Okay.
like that. I'll have to look back. But
You made it sound like it was called the Deli.
it
So I
might
was
it
like,
might have been. It might have been, man. We it very well might have been. But it was a fantastic blueberry pancakes and yeah, man, it was great breakfast
yeah,
with him. But
yeah,
he's a phenomenal storyteller. Dude, he had so
yeah,
many awesome stories and just hearing about, your family and the relationship that he has with you all and where you guys have been, where you're at now. It was really cool. And he had I think his daughter Rachel, your cousin, obviously. There's a lot of similarities with Shaya and Rachel, and so
yeah,
I think you picked up on that. And it was a great intro in terms of just getting to spend a little bit of time with him. But Shaya, even during that time, which was really cool, she was so engaged and a lot of great questions because I was wondering, how, what's it going to be like, when she meets Uncle Ben, right? And will she be engaged or is this going to be Dad asking all the questions? And I kind of sat back and she'd ask a question, he'd tell a story, and give her some advice, and it was a really really awesome hour he gave us. So we started
yeah,
the day off like that. Yep. So
yeah.
by the way, he told
Well,
me to tell you hello too. He
I
sends
talk to
his
him like
love.
every day, so you know what I mean. It's like well, it's interesting. I was when I was thinking about this, because
Hmm.
obviously I have three daughters that are younger. So my oldest is, for those that don't know, my oldest is 12 and a half. She's a seventh grader. So I feel like I have all this time. I got plenty of time. I mean, like we'll get there when we get there, but I'm already thinking about when she quote unquote graduates from eighth grade, right? Like I'm already
Right.
teared up. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So the point is like I just don't, time flies by as we know, and then all of a sudden you're preparing for this, this big transition. And I was looking at this study from
Mm.
this it was a platform called unitegroup.com, and they were talking about the emotional impact of for parents when their kiddos go off to college. Now they kind of position it more of like an empty nest syndrome kind of thing. So like
Okay.
maybe the last kid goes to college, or maybe you have one child and they go to college.
Mm.
And so there's some, a lot of the research is around the empty nest component, where it said that, in this survey of 1,000 parents of first year university students,
Okay.
found that 98% experienced extreme grief, right? And so, so I've wondered, like, again, even if whether it's first kid or last kid, I mean, I think it's probably similar, especially for your first child, because it's like, man, this is like one of those like milestones where
Yeah.
like there's all these ripple effects, right? Because it means we're all getting older, right? They're
No
off,
question.
they're out of the house, and then and for you, this is kind of a domino effect. It won't be long until Demi's gone. It won't be long until Jada's out the door. It won't be long until Isaiah and then Amari, right? And so it kind of starts this domino effect. But like, how are you and Jess, your wife Jess, like, how are you guys preparing for Shaya not being in the home? Because I feel like it's going to flip the dynamics a little bit.
Such a great question. Yeah.
Demi now will be the oldest in the house, like oldest child in the house,
Right.
and so like, what are y'all doing anything to prepare for that, or is it just kind of like roll with the punches? Like, what's the deal?
Well, it kind of hit me in January when Shaya turned 17. and I was sharing this with you when she turned 17. I go,
Yep.
man, this is a hard birthday for me. The last birthday that she'll have as, somebody that's not an adult. And so, I think that's where you talk about grief. I mean, if, this trip was less about grief. I don't think I felt that as much. I felt a sense of pride, a little bit of nervousness, anxiousness, especially when you get into the city, because you're sitting there like, okay, my baby girl is going to be here by herself, so a little bit of
Mhm.
that. Definitely uncertainty, definitely change. A sense of missing her, when she ultimately leaves. But I think the grief part came, a couple months ago, where I was like, oh, okay, this is like the last year with her. And so let's really make the best opportunity out of it. Just as a planner. And so she just recently shared with me, I think she put everything in the calendar from now all the way up until graduation of next year. And so that was kind of interesting, seeing homecoming and, prom and graduation and all the different things that are scheduled out. And so yeah, I think it's just like trying to navigate what the new normal is going to look like. Shaya has been somebody that she's super helpful. She always helps get the other kids around. She's, very, engaged with the family as much as a 17-year-old is going to be, teenager. But I think it's somebody that the rest of the kids look up to. And yeah, man. So it will be definitely different. But I don't know if it's fully hit us yet, man. I really
Yeah.
don't think it's fully
Yeah.
hit us yet.
Probably not. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, you know, I think a lot of people kind of report that it feels like a loss in the family when somebody goes off, right? Now
Hmm.
obviously it's not because they're still around and hopefully coming home and holidays and all that stuff, right?
Right.
But where when even when you have somebody that's like that you're actually losing, they're here and you kind of know it's coming and then they're gone as another set of grief turns, kind of sets in.
Yeah.
But I think that yeah, I mean, I think that there's all when people have different personalities, like that personality kind of leaves the house
Yeah.
and basically, if she decides to go to school DC, it's not like it's a little drive away. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
so
That's
you have
right.
to.
Yeah.
So like this whole topic though got me thinking about just the emotional side of like transitions or changes, right? Um, and and wondering, your take and your positioning on like why are transitions or changes, like why do they feel so daunting even when they're
Yeah.
positive? Like this is super positive, like, hey,
Yeah.
she's gonna go to school, she got great grades, she's gonna be able to hopefully have a pick of the litter in a city that she wants to live with the
Mm.
trajectory of doing some of the things she wants to do, whether it be in law or something different.
Yep.
So this is great. I mean, this is all good stuff, right? And so
Yeah.
that's probably one reason why you're seeing, you're have a sense of pride, and like now it's just exciting. It's like shopping for homes. Like, hey, we can look at every house.
Right.
Let's check it out. Like, what do we like? This is, when you look at a new house, you're like, this is gonna be my room. This is gonna be the master. Hey, we
That's
can
it.
actually, if it's an old home, hey, let's take this wall out. We'll build the kitchen here. You have all these kind of, it's all hope and optimism.
Yeah.
So that's all good, right? But I think that, when we think about transition in the bigger picture, like why do
Mm.
people struggle so much with change? What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you? Yeah.
I think it's like when something changes, oftentimes it may feel like something's being taken away from you. I think that's the way a lot of people look at it. Is like I had this and now I don't, or it's very and so I think it's almost like a survival mechanism in terms of like it goes back into our animal instincts to say, okay, I need to survive. You're taking something away from me. This is making me
Mhm.
feel anxious. It's giving me a certain sense of motivation to and drive that I might have not had before. Uncertainty, like you mentioned. And so I think that's where it stems from. People really struggle with change. We all do to varying degrees. And I think what's important about it though is to acknowledge that it may be difficult for you, and but B, to actually feel the emotions around that change. And that's why I love what you were asking around emotions, because I think you have to be in touch with those are real. If you mask them, they will present themselves as other things, health issues, anxiety, whatever it is. And so you do have to acknowledge that the change is there, it's real. But then like we always talk about, it's like, what are we going to do? We can look at this as an opportunity. Like I started looking at it, you mentioned how far it is away. When you fly into Ronald Reagan, that it's we got a $200 flight, and literally it's 11 minutes from the school, right? Like, I mean, it's the transportation from Ronald Reagan to the actual, school, the first, Georgetown, and or I think George Washington is also really close to the Ronald Reagan Airport, close to hotels. And so we were able to, when you got there, you're like, oh, like I could get here to see her pretty quickly at a decent, for a decent amount of money. And, so that made me feel a little bit more comfort, but the action of actually doing that helped make the change a little bit more consumable. And so I think like movement, doing, experiencing is actually what helps the change. But I think I'm like anybody else. When a change comes about, it's like, okay, this is going to be disruptive. How am I going to manage it? What am I going to do? And I definitely felt that this weekend for sure.
Yeah, I feel like oftentimes change, and one reason why people struggle with change is because it signals like the surfacing of some level of regret
Mm,
that they've had. In other
interesting.
words,
Yeah.
change happens, whatever, from this to that, and they realize that, oh, I took whatever, the old
Yeah.
the old way, or the
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
scenario, the old environment, I took it for granted,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And so, if I had known that this was going to happen, I would have done this differently. Dang, you know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yep.
Or if I just had more time to think about that, right? And
Yeah.
so then you get a little bit, you start to ruminate on all the things you could have done differently, to maybe, not have the change happen, or
Yeah.
to make the change easier,
It's a really good
transition,
point.
or in this case, like, we kind of know that we only have about 10, 11 years or so, depending how you want to argue it, uh, with like having like a little child, like being around your little kids, right? Because once they're
Hmm.
like 12, 13, they're like kind of transition from being like little kids. So now they're pretty darn independent, right? They still need
Yeah.
you for certain things to get around,
Right.
money, whatever. But like
Yeah.
they're
Right.
beginning to like kind of forge this path. So you really, for each, now luckily you got 5 of these bad boys. That's probably one reason why, you got, so it's like you got 50 years in aggregate with these kids, right? But but I think that it's but I think that, even in this scenario, like for example, like in hence, when she turned 17, it's like, dang, like that flew by really fast, and now she's going to be out of the crib. So I think
Yeah.
that people struggle with change oftentimes because they can't get that time back. You know,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that change was something that had some time strapped to it, you can't get it back. Now the winds are shifting. Am I ready for it?
Yeah. I never thought of it like that. It's a really good thought around that, because you're right. I mean, I think that's part of when a change like this happens. I absolutely thought about, okay, have have I equipped her, Jess and I, with the tools needed for her to go to Washington D.C. and show up in a way where she's safe, where she's prepared, for any of the social challenges that she'll have, academic challenges, whatever it is. And um and and if there is a shortcoming there or shortfall there, man, what could I have done better as a parent, to help equip her to be prepared. So yeah, that's a really
I
thoughtful.
mean, think about like a retiring athlete. You see the
Hmm.
kind of retiring athlete who's somebody who's been around for a long time.
Hmm.
Uh, is at the podium announcing their retirement, and they're obviously in tears, they're emotional, but it's
Yeah.
not a necessarily a negative thing. Hopefully they've been able to kind of go on their own terms, or certainly
Hmm.
father time may have kind of come for them, but like they're here to announce that their career is finishing up and this is their last swan song, or that this is it. And I think a lot of times for those athletes there's a sadness or a grief of some sort that you know it's over and it came really quick, even though they've been maybe even thinking about it for some time. But there
Yeah.
might probably is also like the man, did I accomplish everything that I set out to accomplish? And most athletes don't accomplish everything that they set out to accomplish,
Yeah.
right? And, there's always something they left on the table for the most part. There's always those
Mm.
few, right, that have kind of done it all. But even those people, if you ask them, they probably say, "I wish
Yeah.
this had happened,"
Absolutely.
or
Yeah.
"I kind
Definitely
of
was.
expected
Yeah.
this." So I would say that most athletes, and maybe the same with corporate athletes, like when it's all said and done, when they hang up the cleats or where they move on, there's things they haven't done, and so that regret, or that you know that time lost, that time come and gone, you can't get it back. It's
Yeah.
already it's already been spent.
Mm.
It's already been withdrawn and
That's right.
used. And so I think that's
Yeah.
part of it. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, as you were, thinking about Shaya and my trip this weekend, did you think about Gracie? What were your thoughts around that? How are you preparing for that next stage?
Yeah, I mean, like earlier I was talking about how like she's only 12 and a half, right? She's seventh grader. She's young for her class. When she
Yeah.
graduates, she'll be 17. Uh, and so I was talking to Courtney about this on a walk. Like, yo, like it's not gonna be very long. I mean, she's an athlete. If she continues down this path, maybe she'll get recruited. We'll see. And if she is, it's probably going to be come sophomore, junior year. She'll
Hmm.
be 15, 16 years old. I mean, that's around the corner. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
And so we already feel like it's going really fast. She's grown. She's like 5'6" now.
It's crazy. It's so
And just like 8 months ago, she was not. She was like four, like she's grown like 7 inches and probably, and within the year, certainly, right?
mm,
And so you're just watching this person grow and change. And I won't have another child in high school with her at the same time. So like there's a
okay.
little bit of a gap there.
Okay.
Early, I got Gracie who's young for her class, and then Nora, my
Yeah.
second kid, who's old for her class. So they just won't be
You'll
overlapping.
miss each other by a
So,
year. About a
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like, so all the attention kind of goes to Gracie for the most part right now, and so she's your road dog, right? She's the number one
Hmm.
first kid, everything you've done along the way is like, she kind of tested the milestones and all the different things on her. So,
Hmm.
like you also wonder, like, just to trying to prepare her, like, hey, how prepared am I for that?
Right. Right.
And I don't know. So, I mean, the truth is I'm not really making a lot of preparations for it because I feel that, you kind of feel like, man, there's an eternity before we get there. But,
Hmm.
so that's what got me thinking about it. I was like, man, because when we started this company 6 years ago, right, and some
Yeah.
change, really.
Yeah.
I
Six
mean,
and some change. Yeah.
she was younger than Gracie is now, right? So like she's this is like
Younger
a
than Nora,
lifetime.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, um, yeah. Depending on when you want to
Yeah.
earmark
Yeah.
when we
Right.
started.
Right. Right. Right.
But 2018, she was 10, right? So it's not. Yeah, I think she would be. Shea would have been 10. I mean, great. Nora's
Yeah.
9. So yeah, but I think that we know that time's gonna fly, and I think one thing I want to do to prepare is like spend as much QT, as much
Mm,
quality time with her now, because that will be something I know I will regret
yeah. That's great wisdom.
when she goes off. I mean, like this, it's not even. I could spend every day 8 hours a day with her, and I'm going to regret not spending that another hour with
Yep.
her once she's out the door. Right now, obviously, I'm
Yeah.
not going to spend 8 hours a day with her. I don't think she would want that herself, but I think that just finding like really great time with her, finding some experiences that we
Mm,
can kind of put in the memory vault together. Um, I
yeah.
think that those things I think are going to be important because that'll be something that and undoubtedly I would regret not getting
Hmm.
that QT and knowing that there was plenty of time to share, to put the phone down, to go somewhere one on one and have a little dinner date, or go to a movie together, or go take a trip together, or have travel with her, stuff
Uh-huh.
like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think that's one way that I want to prepare is like, let me squeeze out as much time as possible, try to beat all the games,
Yeah. Yep.
celebrate with her on stuff like that, so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I
That's
don't know.
yeah. I think that that's no. That's really smart, and that's very wise in terms of thinking about that quality time that you get to spend with them, whether it's them individually, or even I start to think about how and what the impact will be from when Shea leaves with her siblings. What relationship do they have? Because quite honestly, I've got significantly more time with Shea than they'll get in with her in the house, especially
Yeah,
Amari, right? And so making sure that that they're feeling heard, and some of the questions that Jess and I need to start asking in terms of just like how they feel with Shea getting ready to leave. That's something to really start to think about.
yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
DJ, I love this conversation. We're gonna I want to sign off of
Okay,
this part one of this conversation, and then I want to start up the next episode with a part two
let's do it.
on really just some strategies to embrace change.
Okay,
Some mindset practices to prepare for major transitions, not just kiddos going off to college. We can include that in there too, but also just in general for our audience, like strategies to embrace change. We kind of tapped into a couple of those relative to this scenario, but I think we
hmm
can look at it a little bit broader lens on the next episode. How's that
sounds good,
sound?
man. Yeah, man.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
So listen, folks, thanks for tuning in on this short and episode with DJ and I. There's a little bit more coming behind this, but remember, you don't have to be sick to get better.